3 teens suspected of a carjacking fire at officers. Now the mayor calls for an overhaul of the juvenile justice system. Our team asks for specifics and questions why now, after Fox 45 News has been pressing this issue for months. Pushing for transparency in Maryland education.
Do you still have your state-issued cell phone set to delete text messages at 30 days?
New tonight, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore demands answers from your state superintendent.
Do you guys have any statement on the potential violation of state law here?
Then residents voiced their safety concerns to the acting police commission.
These parents, they need to take control of their kids at home and teach them how to act right on the streets.
Why Mayor Scott says Rich Worley is the best choice for Baltimore, as residents voice their frustration.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. More carjacking arrests involving juveniles in Baltimore after an armed carjacking turned into a barricade situation late last night. 3 teens are arrested after allegedly shooting at police from a stolen car, then fleeing to a nearby home. Jeff Abel is looking into the mayor's response to that incident and why some say it falls short. Our team coverage begins with Vincent Hill. Vincent spoke with residents and has an update on the investigation. Vincent?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, residents say they were awakened by gunshots. According to police, those shooters, juveniles in a stolen Jeep. On this quiet street in Northeast Baltimore.
Loud, it woke me up.
The sounds of gunshots waking up residents and ducking for cover.
4 shots.
Those shots, according to Baltimore police, carjacking suspects taking aim at police.
Information from Northeast enough so of discharging at police, assault on police. On Mr. Borough for a burgundy Jeep.
A short time later, an hours-long standoff leading to the arrest of a 16, 17, and 18-year-old. Baltimore police not releasing the 18-year-old's name as part of the ongoing investigation, but they say the 16 and 17-year-old both have previous arrests for auto theft.
Oh, my God. What are we doing to cause you to react like this, to take things that don't belong to you?
Just the latest incident of carjackings involving juveniles. On Monday morning, a 15-year-old shot while trying to carjack an off-duty police officer. And last Thursday night,
red 2011 Dodge, door number 1 juveniles wearing ski man suspects. Call a report being carjacked in front of his home.
A 69-year-old carjacked in his driveway 2 miles away, and about 20 minutes later, police receiving this call in the Canton neighborhood.
We had a call for a shooting. 1023 South Curly, male shot.
This surveillance video captures the moments before 57-year-old Daryl Benner was shot as the suspect fled in his nephew's car. Benner pronounced dead at the scene.
He did take his final breath laying in my lap.
The suspects in Benner's murder still on the loose.
We're heartbroken, we're devastated. He was a great guy. The brutality and, the mentality of people, it's sickening.
And just this month alone, 60 carjackings have been reported. That's according to BPD's crime map, and 319 for the year. For now, we're live at BPD headquarters. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, these violent carjackings, nothing really new in Baltimore. In May of 2022, a 16-year-old and 2 others were charged with carjacking an unmarked police car at a 7-Eleven, allegedly pistol whipping an officer before driving off and flipping the car in a crash later that night. 2 months later, an Amazon delivery driver was carjacked and run over with her own vehicle. Her sister told Fox 45 News she was left with a broken pelvis, hip, and partially collapsed lung. A juvenile was arrested. That same month, a 17-year-old was arrested for attempting to steal a delivery driver's car in Little Italy. Surveillance video shows the driver clinging to the outside of his car as the teen crashed the car into a restaurant. Now, Fox 45 News has been pressing Mayor Scott about what's being done to stop juvenile crime for months. Tonight, he's calling for change. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with the mayor's response. Jeff?
The mayor has recently been calling for the rebuilding of the entire juvenile justice system, but it is unclear tonight whether that also means the repealing of those new juvenile justice reform laws which prosecutors have deemed as failures.
We can't just throw our hands up in the air like,
On the morning drive, talk radio was driving home the urgency to reform the state's juvenile justice laws.
There should be a state of emergency at this point for auto thefts.
In Annapolis, the reforms passed by the legislature have simply backfired, according to prosecutors.
To be honest, I think it's one of the worst pieces of legislation I've ever read.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them.
On Monday, Mayor Brandon Scott complained that the system simply can't be repaired.
The system needs to be built from its entirety.
As juvenile crime races out of control, rebuilding the juvenile justice system has lately become a common theme at City Hall. In a news release issued today, the mayor wrote, "It's clear that we need to build a different juvenile justice system from the ground up that actually supports our young people with the resources they need, but also actually holds them accountable when it's required." But exactly what does that look like? This afternoon, we asked the mayor's office, does the mayor support scrapping or amending the recent Juvenile Justice Reform Act and the Child Interrogation Act? Will the mayor call on lawmakers to return to Annapolis for a special session on juvenile justice reform? And is there a reason the mayor has recently called for rebuilding the system from the ground up? So far, no reply.
This cannot just be a campaign promise. We need to see specifics. We need to see goals.
Eurypsy Morgan, who leads a government accountability watchdog organization, says taxpayers deserve specifics from the mayor, even if it means disrupting political relationships.
We need juvenile justice reform, and he shouldn't be afraid to speak out, against these bad laws. He shouldn't be afraid to call them by name, and he shouldn't be afraid to talk to specific legislators.
Well, the mayor tonight is vowing to work with lawmakers to what he says change whatever needs to be changed. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Mayor Brandon Scott put some of the blame on the Hogan administration. He said after 8 years of not having a partner in Annapolis who wanted to tackle juvenile crime, he's grateful to have Governor Moore's commitment to finding a solution. But there have been instances of collaboration between the city and state during the Hogan administration, as Governor Hogan signed off on a $45 million plan to address overall violence in Baltimore. Hogan also met with Mayor Scott in February of last year to discuss a holistic violence prevention plan in Baltimore. And it's important to note, the Juvenile Justice Act went into law without Governor Hogan's signature.
Well, during a sit-down last night with political commentator Armstrong Williams, Governor Moore said the state's current juvenile crime laws do need to be reworked, but he didn't specify what those changes should be.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability. When you have a person who is a repeat violent offender, I'm sorry, I'm coming after you.
Well, next month, state lawmakers will be holding a hearing to address juvenile crime. It is not a special session, so no laws will be enacted. The governor has already said he will not call a special session. Well, we want to hear from you. Do you think the mayor should do more to push lawmakers to change juvenile justice laws? So far, 100% of people who voted say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
The safe street workers you all talk about, I watched them sell drugs. I watched them. The question is, for someone that looks like me, what are you going to do to build up that trust? Because I see it every day.
A Baltimore resident taking his concerns with safe streets to Mayor Scott and Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley during a public comment meeting. He says he isn't seeing police or safe streets workers engaging with the community. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been investigating safe streets for years and spoke to the man who sounded off last night.
He was pretty blunt with the mayor, arguing he doesn't believe Safe Streets workers are doing enough to help lift people out of their criminal environment that they may be in right now. And his concerns mirror what we've found over the years as we continue to investigate this program.
My personal experience is I've never been really a supporter of a lot of the CVI programs I've seen.
Baltimore City has dozens of nonprofits working to help break the cycle of violence.
I respect what they've tried to do, but I think they missed the ball in the people that they've been trying to hire.
Gun violence continues to impact almost every corner of Baltimore, and one program specifically, Bolon Shiamaru has concerns about.
The Safe Streets workers often are chilling in the area with mass groups of people that they know sell drugs.
Shiamaru says possible criminal activity hasn't been in plain sight recently, noting Safe Streets workers are supposed to get to know high-risk people in the community and walk around while on the clock. But he says a few years ago,
I can 100% say that Safe Streets workers were over there handing off things, handing off drugs. I don't know if those people still work there.
And neither does the public. Mayor Brandon Scott keeping the names of Safe Streets workers private, citing safety concerns. Throughout our investigation, we found some Safe Streets workers who have been arrested and charged with dealing drugs while working as violence interrupters. Most recently, we uncovered the case of Vernon Harper. In this indictment, federal prosecutors outlined how violence interrupter Harper was trying to sell drugs. According to prosecutors, he also was known as Diddy, and he traveled from his Pikesville home to Brooklyn, where Harper's worked for Safe Streets in order to sell narcotics to customers. In October 2022, Harper signing a plea agreement, pleading guilty to possession with intent to distribute fentanyl and cocaine. But he's not alone. Ronald Alexander, seen here in a photo from the 2020 federal complaint wearing a Safe Streets shirt holding a bag of suspected drugs. Alexander, sentenced in September of 2021 to more than 11 years in federal prison for distributing fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin in Baltimore. Shi Amaru says instead of tallying the total mediations completed by Safe Streets workers, like the mayor's office often does, the violence interrupters should be tracking real change with members in the community.
Why are we stacking up our stats and conflicts instead of stacking up our stats on doors knocked?
When pressed during the community meeting, Mayor Scott promising accountability.
If you see anybody that works for me, whether it's BPD, DPW, Safe Streets, Rec and Parks, whoever, pitching, then you let us know that, right? I want to know that so we can get those people. If you got the videos of anybody, give that to us so that we can deal with those people directly.
But Safe Streets workers aren't city employees, and the city points to the nonprofits running the program, like Catholic Charities and LifeBridge Health, as who's responsible for staffing. According to the contracts, the city does tightly restrict what the nonprofits and the Safe Streets workers themselves are allowed to talk about publicly. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
There are questions about Safe Streets hiring practices and how employees are monitored. We don't know if there's a threshold for crimes committed before someone is hired or how the city makes sure Safe Streets employees aren't committing crimes while working for the program. Fox 45 News pressed the mayor on that earlier this month.
Should the public have any sort of knowledge of when current Safe Streets workers are charged with a crime?
Well, we know that court records in Maryland are public records. The same way.
But the names of the Safe Streets workers aren't.
The same way that we deal with individuals, and we've had it in the past, right? So this isn't anything new. I want the residents to know this. In the past, we've had folks who were working for Safe Streets before my administration still be involved, and those folks were handled criminally, and everyone knew.
Concerns about Safe Streets aren't the only ones residents brought up to the mayor and acting commissioner last night. Coming up at 10:30, we'll take a closer look at what else is on the top of the minds of some Baltimoreans.
Well, right now, Republican presidential hopefuls are on the debate stage in Milwaukee, hoping to separate themselves from a very crowded field. This is a live look outside Fiserv Forum, where 8 candidates are taking the stage with one notable absence. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman is at tonight's debate. He'll join us live with an update in about 10 minutes.
We are tracking the next weather maker as it moves in from the north. Look at all the rain and the thunderstorms, Erie, Pennsylvania, down to Pittsburgh. How much of it makes it here? Well, that's a question, and it looks like the answer is not a whole lot. Overnight, there could be a few showers around. There could even be a maybe heavier shower by about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So keep that in mind. That's what our latest computer models are trending to say. And it looks like by noontime tomorrow, you may want to have your umbrella out as well. I'll let you know how it looks if you're planning on heading to the state fair. First day tomorrow evening. It's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, our coverage of the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland and around Baltimore continues at 10:30. How many young people are under DJS care and why some worry they're not being properly supervised. A group tasked with preserving Baltimore's historic homes says BGE can install those external gas regulators. What that means for the project moving forward. And it's still not clear who will lead Maryland's public education system after a vote on the superintendent's contract is delayed again. Project Baltimore presses him about it one-on-one after the break.
A new school year is here, and we still don't know who will be leading Maryland's public education system into the future.
The State Board of Education again has delayed voting on State Superintendent Mohammed Chowdhury's contract. As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, Chowdhury has found himself caught in a controversy, and we finally got a chance to ask him about it.
Maryland State Superintendent Mohammed Chowdhury earns $310,000 a year as the state's top education official. But his job is on the line. And recently, Chowdhury has found himself mired in controversy.
I have a couple questions about your emails and text messages that we have been reporting on.
A Project Baltimore investigation has exposed numerous transparency and accountability concerns, which include deleted text messages and a secondary email account Chowdhury was using to conduct official business. At the state school board meeting this week, we tried to get answers.
Do you still have your cell phone set, your state issue cell phone set, to delete your text messages after 30 days?
We've responded to this in our written response. I don't have any comment on this, but if there's a policy change that the board wants to include, I'm willing to.
Do you still have your state-issued cell phone set to delete text messages at 30 days?
I have my state-issued phone set at where it's at when I was given.
Before we get to our next question, here's why that answer is important. On April 10th, Project Baltimore filed a public records request for text messages sent or received by the superintendent from January to March of this year. That time frame is when the Maryland State Department of Education changed the way it reports test scores for low-performing schools, redacting much of the data. The change makes far less information available to parents and taxpayers who want to know how public schools are performing. Those texts could help us better understand why that decision was made. The records we received show 98 text messages were deleted from the superintendent's cell phone during those months. The school board told us the superintendent's state-issued cell phone is set to auto-delete texts after 30 days. And apparently, according to his answer, it still is. Here's the problem. 12 of the text messages we asked for were not yet 30 days old when we filed our request. They, too, were deleted. In a statement published on its website, the school board said it recognizes that text messages cannot be deliberately deleted after they are requested as part of a PIA request, which led to our next question.
It would be a violation if text messages were deleted after we filed our Public Information Act request. That does appear to have happened. Do you guys have any statement on the potential violation of state law here?
We have made our statements with respect to the matter. It's in writing. You have that. We suggest you go back. We don't have anything new to add to that at this time.
The Maryland Public Information Act manual clearly states a custodian, in this case MSDE, should not destroy records to avoid compliance with a pending request. The Maryland Attorney General and the State Prosecutor's Office told FOX45 they're aware of the deleted texts, but neither confirms nor denies existence of investigations.
So there's that level as well.
This controversy comes as Chowdhury is fighting for his job,
as well as
his contract expires in June of next year. But the state school board has yet to decide whether he will stay on as superintendent for another 4 years. Many assumed the board would vote on Chowdhury's new contract last month, but the decision was delayed in July and again in August. Board policy says contract negotiations must be complete by next month, the end of September. And as of now, board leadership is not saying much.
The board is deliberating. The board has not made a decision. And as soon as we have something definitive to say, we will.
I'm Chris Papps, and this is Project Baltimore.
Now, the state school board has yet to explain why it's delaying a vote on the superintendent's contract, but Project Baltimore will stay on this story in the coming days and weeks to bring you any updates.
We are following some breaking news out of Baltimore County. This is a live look near Towson High School where you can see there is a police presence. This is just off of York Road. It's not exactly clear what's going on here, but we did have reports come into the newsroom that someone was shot there earlier tonight. It comes just a week before the first day of school. Fox 45 News has reached out to police for more information. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. But you can see crime tape up there again. A possible shooting outside of Towson High School tonight in Baltimore County. Well, coming up, Baltimore residents voicing their safety concerns in front of the mayor and acting police commissioner, what they had to say in the response from city leaders.
Let's go live to Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, hosting the first Republican presidential debate. Ahead, Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman joins us live with what's been discussed so far.
And the next weather maker rolling in from the north with lots of rain, lots of thunderstorms in the Ohio Valley. The question is, how much of it is going to make it here? Well, overnight could see a stray shower storm. And if you're headed out to the Maryland State Fair, first day begins tomorrow evening. There could be a shower storm there as well. 5 p.m. temperature as the gates open, 79 degrees, 7 p.m. 76, and maybe a shower or thunderstorm. And that goes for 10 p.m. as well with mid-70s. I'll let you know how long the rain and storms last and when we can have some mid-90s in the forecast in a couple of minutes.
And as we head to break, a live look over Camden Yards. A nice night tonight before rain moves in tomorrow. There was a game there tonight. We'll be right back. The first Republican presidential debate underway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now, with 8 candidates vying to make a valuable first impression.
Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman joins us live from Wisconsin. And we're just over an hour into the debates. Scott, what are your takeaways so far?
Mary and Kai, it started a little slow and it got heated pretty fast, especially after the first half hour of pleasantries were over. They did not last long. What's interesting is we knew that former President Donald Trump would be a big topic, and he certainly has been, but the other quote-unquote punching bag, and that really has been the newcomer to all of this, who saw a surge in the polls over the last month or so, and that's Vivek Ramaswamy, the entrepreneur, because I believe you have a stage up there that was offended when he said, I'm the only one here who's not paid and in the pockets of someone else more powerful. He essentially questioned their credibility, and they decided to turn on him and his lack of resume in their eyes to try and lead the nation, someone who had not held any sort of office in public service, and that caught them all in a bit of an uproar. Chris Christie, as we had predicted, really kind of hitting away with a sledgehammer on all different topics, talking about whether or not former President Trump should be considered for re-election. What he said is, look, it doesn't matter if you believe or disbelieve the charges or that he will be found guilty in those 4 indictments. What matters most, former Governor Christie said, is that his conduct is unbecoming of office. And then there was a lot of addition to that. But I will say to this point, Mary and Kai, it was interesting because the crowd is still very defensive of the former president. There were boos whenever somebody would attack the president or the former president. And then really kind of interesting some moments regarding former Vice President Mike Pence, who tried to explain what happened on January 6th, and then a much more extended version that we've heard from him so far, saying that the former president wanted him to choose Trump over the Constitution. He said, I chose the Constitution, and I will do that again.
Interesting. Supporters of former President Trump may be in the crowd tonight, but he, as you mentioned, noticeably absent from tonight's debate. He is sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson. Instead, it aired at the same time as the debate. Any headlines coming out of that interview?
Well, I mean, there were a lot, and we're going to have more of that in the news later in this evening about what was said during that interview. But the president did reiterate his stance that he's essentially above being at this debate because his poll numbers are so large, and he thinks he'll have a better audience online with that interview with Tucker Carlson, which will yet to be seen. But this is also, if you recall, a stance that the former president has taken against supporting the rest of the field should one of them become the nominee. There's a loyalty pledge you have to sign if you're going to be on that debate stage. Now, you can't necessarily believe that all of them would adhere to it if Donald Trump becomes the nominee, but he refused to sign it, saying that he would support whoever emerges to face likely Joe Biden. And that's a sticking point because we already know that he has said he will not attend the next debate. We don't know after that. I spoke to Jason Miller, who's a senior advisor to Donald Trump, and he said, we don't know either. We're going to wait and see what happens. But he has committed to multiple events of staying home or holding some sort of counter event, and that's what we saw tonight. Does it pay off? We don't know. And boycotts like that can be dangerous. Back in 2016, there was a time when he suggested that CNN should have to pay him or compensate him for the ratings he brings in, and he sat out for a little bit. That didn't last long. He wanted the audience, he wanted the attention, and he got it through the rest of the campaign. Who knows how this is going to happen?
All right, Scott Thuman live in Milwaukee for us tonight. Thank you for getting us up to speed on this first Republican presidential debate. Thank you.
Coming up at 10:30, new developments in the legal battle between BGE and city residents. The group getting involved in the external gas regulator controversy.
And the general manager of Baltimore's indoor soccer team, the Blast, faces charges of stealing from the team. How investigators say he allegedly pulled it off.
We're following three big stories. A reward is out for information in the murder of Rachel Morin, what law enforcement officials are offering as they continue to search for this man caught on surveillance video on the other side of the country.
A group dedicated to preserving historic homes weighs in on the BGE external gas regulator debate. Their recommendations and a response from BGE. Baltimore residents voiced public safety concerns at another town hall with Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley about his confirmation next month. We begin there. Residents are pressing the mayor and BPD on how they're going to protect the city as the mayor stands by his decision to nominate Worley. Fox 45's Keith Daniels has been at those meetings, joins us live with the very latest. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, the mayor and the acting police commissioner, are approaching the end of those community meetings before the confirmation hearings. And tonight, pressing the mayor on why he believes his nominee is who the people want.
Most importantly, the meeting is about us hearing from you.
Mayor Brandon Scott calls the community engagement town halls
everyone has an opportunity to be heard tonight.
An opportunity to discuss how best to build a safer Baltimore.
It's going to take every single one of us.
And to hear from residents about what they want to see from the city's commissioner.
And now we will get to the questions.
We ask that you come to the front, 5 at a time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are there.
But the events have also served as a venue for residents to vent.
I want them to just have something understood.
Their city, their voice, as Richard Worley, the acting police commissioner, is considered for the job permanently.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor? Good evening. And this question is for the deputy.
At the meeting in West Baltimore Tuesday, one resident not hesitant about confronting the mayor over his concerns about the city's Squeegee Collaborative.
I was at the Squeegee Collaborative, which started 30 minutes late, and the mayor was absent. This meeting also started 30 minutes late. It's clear that you don't want to hear from citizens.
Two things. The Squeegee Collaborative didn't start 30 minutes late.
It did. I was there. You weren't there. So how are you going to say?
We're gonna do,
no, but I was there.
We in West Baltimore. Chill out. Thank you, sir. I guess he doesn't want his question asked.
Well, you're not answering. You're telling me that you weren't late when I was there.
Am I going to talk?
You weren't there. So how are you going to tell me that it didn't start?
We going to be emotional or we going to talk?
For some residents, emotions do run high, with some of them fed up with violent crime happening in their communities.
I don't see the results.
Another man at the meeting speaking out on violent crime involving juveniles as victims and suspects.
These parents, they need to take control of their kids at home and teach them how to act right on the streets. Now they can find guns and everything.
Worley is Scott's nominee to be the city's police commissioner, with the city council confirmation hearings scheduled to begin next month after the community meetings. There are 2 more sessions scheduled before those hearings, and the mayor, he says, already confident about his choice, believing Worley understands the role of being police commissioner in Baltimore.
And that's to go after folks who are committing illegal crimes with violence, especially violent crimes, break down violent groups who are committing violence in the city of Baltimore, and make sure that we're holding those people accountable through their portion of it. That's what the citizens have asked for. That's what he's been doing.
Well, the next community meeting is tomorrow night in South Baltimore. It's happening at the National Federation of the Blind from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Juvenile crime is another concern brought up throughout the series of public comment meetings this month. And Fox 45 News has learned more than 100 young people are currently on GPS monitoring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Department of Juvenile Services. But some high-profile cases are calling the program's methods into question. Those cases include the 18-year-old arrested in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. He faces more than 50 charges, including attempted murder. He was wearing an ankle monitor at the time, which is raising questions about the department's supervision policies. Defense attorney Roya Hanna and DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi himself both say the department needs to be better.
A lot of times monitors will give people, especially juveniles, multiple chances to come into compliance and to report. It's just a matter of what excuses he gave to the court and what explanations he or his parent gave. about why he broke curfew on that particular night.
Supervision all by itself by a government-funded probation officer or community supervisor, that's just this much of the problem. We really have to engage the rest of the people in their community. You got to get in there with those kids and interrupt that flow and put them on a path to success.
Governor Moore has ordered a top-to-bottom review of the Department of Juvenile Services, but those results haven't been announced.
A win for Baltimore homeowners this week as the group tasked with preserving Baltimore's historic homes says BGE can't install external gas regulators at certain homes without the right approval. Fox 45's Amy Simpson has the latest.
Almost 2 months to the day since 3 Baltimore women were zip-tied and put into the back of a police van in Federal Hill.
Residents were getting arrested to try to make their point, to exercise their First Amendment rights, to protect property rights and homeowners' rights.
Their charges have since been dropped, but their fight over gas regulators in Baltimore City only continues. Today, an attorney representing hundreds of homeowners in a class action lawsuit against BGE, claiming a win.
City residents scored a major victory with CHAP unanimously deciding to block the installation of exterior regulators in historic districts across Baltimore.
Lifelong resident of Falls Point. CHAP, the city's commission for historical and architectural preservation, taking up the debate about gas regulators in historic neighborhoods.
The utility owns that line.
And after a hearing Tuesday, this attorney says the commission ruled against having outside regulators at historic homes, unless it's required by law or approved by the homeowner.
Not only did CHAP reject BG&E's arguments about safety, they accepted that homeowners ought to have the final say.
For months, BGE has stood firm, saying external regulators are integral to upgrading to a high-pressure gas system, saying safety is the driving force behind the utility work, even as some object to having the construction done on their homes. Just last week, a member of the Maryland Public Service Commission questioned BGE about the safety of where regulators are installed, as residents often point to neighborhoods where regulators were most recently put inside instead.
So, I mean, are we to understand now that Bolton Hill is not a safe place in your system? So first of all, let me just say this. We're not saying that regulators on the indoors are not safe. What we are saying is that regulators on the outside are safer.
But the debate about this controversial utility work only continues as a temporary restraining order in the class action lawsuit against BGE's regulators will expire in less than 2 weeks.
It's a big win for the good guys, but it's not the entire battle, because at the end of the day, the homeowners in historic districts now are protected, but every resident in every community in Baltimore ought to have the same protection, ought to have the same rights.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
BGE sent a statement to Fox 45 News saying the organization respects efforts to preserve communities, but BGE maintains outdoor gas regulators are a safer alternative to keeping them indoors. Both sides are waiting on a decision from the Public Service Commission.
The general manager of Baltimore